Hello, everyone. My name is Gregory, and this is The View from Out Here. When propaganda princess Caroline Leavitt stands in front of the seal of the White House at press briefings, she often reminds reporters that this administration is the most transparent in history. She is uncharacteristically telling the truth. Most reporters, even those who are MAGA Publican cult members over at Fox, can see right through Donald Trump. He has a tendency to telegraph his nefarious intentions before taking action, such is the case with convicted human trafficker and Jeffrey Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. Trump dispatched his consigliere and personal lawyer, now Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, to the federal prison in Tallahassee, Florida, to elicit testimony from Maxwell, praising the character of the felon president and clearing him of any suspicion of wrongdoing. The president sent the Deputy Attorney General of the United States to a federal prison in Florida to interview a convicted felon and convicted perjurer, a move that in itself is highly abnormal. Of course, nothing about this Trump regime can be considered normal by any standard. Last Friday, the Justice Department released the transcripts and audio recordings of those interviews with Maxwell, and she clearly understood the assignment. She is seeking the commutation of her sentence or an outright pardon from the president. She knows some things that make the president understandably quite nervous. What she might have to say is critically important to his presidency, despite her perjury conviction. With a word, she has the ability to tank his whole regime in a New York heartbeat, whether what she has to say is true or not. That, dear viewer, in the mob circles that most of these people rub shoulders in, is powerful currency. Currency that Ghislaine Matthews seems perfectly willing to spend on her freedom from a 20-year sentence in federal prison. You might be asking yourself, what did she have to say about the president? I'm glad you asked, and here's a few quotes from the transcripts released on Friday afternoon. She says, "And as far as I'm concerned, President Trump has always been very cordial and very kind to me. And I just want to say that I think I admire his extraordinary achievement in becoming the president now. And I like him, and I've always liked him. So that is the sum and substance of my entire relationship with him." Now, just a moment later in this interview, Maxwell was asked about the relationship between the president and Jeffrey Epstein. Here's what she said about that. "I think they were friendly, like people are in social settings. I don't think they were close friends. I certainly never witnessed the president in any of, I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody, and in the times when I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects." I'm sure that it's just a coincidence that within days of saying these complimentary things about President Trump, Maxwell was moved to a minimum security federal prison camp in Bryan, Texas. It's clear that Maxwell understood the assignment and gave Deputy Attorney General Blanche what he needed to deliver to the president. There was a lot more of the interview, and I didn't read all of it, but Maxwell briefly touched on Bill Clinton's many flights on Epstein's plane, but never suggested any wrongdoing on his part. In fact, from the parts of her testimony that I did read, she seemed to be an innocent bystander with nary a clue of what was going on around her every day. It was the big fat nothing burger that it was always meant to be. Of course, when you set this transcript against the testimony of the girls that she and Epstein are said to have abused, it's clear that the math ain't mathin'. And I don't know that any of the women who came forward with allegations have any convictions for perjury on their records. I have a couple of takeaways from this dog and pony show, not the least of which is that propaganda princess Caroline Leavitt is telling the truth. Donald Trump is as transparent as she says he is. This transcript has been a setup to give him what he needs to justify commuting Ghislaine Maxwell's sentence or pardoning her altogether. Granted, it's a flimsy justification, but hey, any port in the storm. You know Donald Trump. Ghislaine Maxwell is a friend of his who he can now say was treated badly by Joe Biden's weaponization of the Justice Department. See, the convicted perjurer said so herself. It's also no coincidence that the White House released this interview on a Friday afternoon. In the White House press office, Friday afternoon has traditionally been nicknamed the Take Out the Trash Day. That's when the press secretary releases stories they don't want people to notice because most people aren't consuming news on Saturday. That's a holdover from the old days when newspapers were a physical thing that you could hold in your hand and maybe line your birdcage with or wrap up your fish at the Pike Place Market. But another probably more important takeaway is that presidential administrations from both parties now have withheld the Jeffrey Epstein files from the public. There's stuff in those files that neither party wants you to know about. I wonder if it ever occurs to any of them that withholding the Epstein files is the very reason that even MAGA public and cult members won't let it go. Joe Bannon talked about it months ago at a Turning Point USA conference. Here's what he said.
Arc of looking at how the deep state has tried to stop Trump and the MAGA movement, you can easily fit in the Epstein situation, right? If you want the full release of documents, the special prosecutor gets it, and here's why. Epstein is a key that picks the lock on so many things, not just individuals, but also institutions, intelligence institutions, foreign governments, and who is working with him on our intelligence apparatus and in our government.
When you juxtapose the Epstein files with the Me Too movement, with Harvey Weinstein and Louis C.K. and Bill Cosby and Pete Diddy and Pete Hegseth and T.D. Jakes and Donald Trump and Jay-Z and Beyonce and now Tyler Perry, the list goes on, and I haven't even gotten to the list of the wealthy and powerful oligarchs. It has to make you wonder whether one of the qualifications for being morbidly wealthy and powerful is that you also have to be a criminally abusive sex freakazoid. Mark my words, and I hope that I'm wrong about this, but the public will never see the pertinent pieces of the Epstein files. Oh, the White House will continue to take out the trash on Fridays, like with bits and pieces of the files that we already have, or stuff that has no connection to what an informed voter might need to know when they cast a ballot or buy a product or service. An informed voter is a mortal threat to this new government. There are just too many morbidly wealthy men that have too much to lose when these illusions are popped like a birthday balloon. Please don't let this Epstein files story get shuffled off of the front burner by the myriad of distractions intentionally produced to keep us too busy to notice that we haven't seen them yet. I hate to agree with Steve Bannon, of all people, but he is right about one thing. The Epstein files are the key to opening Pandora's box. It's often said that the truth will set us free. To that, I can only add, a guy can hope. I want to thank you for hanging with me so far. I've been at this for over a year now, and I hope to one day earn a little money to supplement my Social Security and maybe loosen up my belt a little bit. If you have any such desire, you can help me out a great deal just by hitting like and subscribe, and maybe even having a look at some of my merchandise. You'll find links in the description below, and I stand by all of it. I promise that at the very least, it's worthy of your attention. Meanwhile, my name is Gregory, and this has been The View from Out Here. Much love.